everybody, it's Holly here today for MarkerPop. So I've die cut some pieces already because this video is extremely long. So I'm starting out with the large stitched frames die from Lawn Fawn, and I cut that out of some craft cardstock. Then I'm using the inside piece to build my scene on so that I know it will fit inside the frame. And I'm using some of the watercolor wash paper from My Favorite Things, and I'm also using some of the graphic grid paper. The watercolor background paper I just cut straight, and then I used the Rolling Hills die from My Favorite Things for the graphic grid paper, and then I also used the Grassy Hills die to cut a couple pieces as well. And then I used some white to cut the fence from the Rolling Hills. So I'm just assembling my background here together. And then I'm going to go ahead and use the Surf and Turf sliders from My Favorite Things to create a slider element inside the grassy area on the lower part of my scene. So once I have everything in place, I'm going to go ahead and die cut one of the Surf and Turf sliders from a piece of the graphic grid paper that I cut with the Grassy Hills border die. So I'm just kind of testing out to see which one will work for the shape of the hill I have there. And I'm cutting that out of a second layer panel so that when you look through the slider, you see the back of it. You see the same paper so it doesn't stick out very far. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out the little dots from a piece of some scrap white paper there. And I'm going to use these spin and slide embellishments. I'm going to put a piece of multi-matte there on one of the circles and then add one of the little sliders. And then I'm going to set everything aside to dry because you want to make sure that slider is nice and secure before you attach it. So while that's drying, I'm going to go ahead and add some foam adhesive to the back of that second layer. And that's going to give some height to my slider element so I can slide back and forth. And I'm just using some scrap foam adhesive that I have laying around on my desk. And once I have the foam pieces all in place where I want them, I want to make sure that's not going to affect the slider at all where I put the foam. I'm going to go ahead and set that panel aside. And I'm going to start out using the Farm Friends set from My Favorite Things. And I am stamping that with some Lawn Fawn jet black ink using my Mini Misty onto some Express It Copic blending paper. This paper is really good for coloring with your Copic markers. I was a big fan of the Nina Solar White, but I've kind of gone back to this Express It paper because it just holds the ink so much better, and you don't use as much ink as well either. So once I have all the images stamped, I'm going to go ahead and just hand stamp with the block a couple more trees, so I have 3 of them total. And the main part of this video is going to be coloring all the little animals and the elements in. So I'll go ahead and play some music while go ahead and color, and all of the colors are up on the screen so you know which colors I used and you guys can follow along, and I'll be back in just a bit. So now that all my images are colored and I've die cut them out with the coordinating dies, I'm going to go ahead and finish creating the scene here. I'm going to go ahead and make a craft standard A2 size card base, and I'm going to go ahead and add the second layer that I'm going to create the slider on directly onto my scene there, just removing the sticky back from the foam tape. The important thing when you want to add your foam tape is you want to make sure it's not going to affect how your slider is going to go along that track there. Sorry, my head keeps getting in the way in some of these shots as well. So there you can see my sliders moving nice and freely. So I'm going to go ahead and add the other little brown circle to the back there. I'm going to add some of the Ranger Multimedia Matte. You want to make sure you don't add too much. I was using a new bottle and it was kind of squirting out everywhere. So I'm going to add that second circle. And then I'm going to go ahead and add the little piggy to it. While the other piece there is drying, I'm going to go ahead and stamp the sentiment onto some white cardstock using the jet black ink from Lawn Fawn. And then I'm going to go ahead and die cut the sentiment using the Blueprints 27 from My Favorite Things. I'm going to use the long skinny banner die to cut the banner out. I wasn't really sure what I was going to do with it, so I didn't really care about where I had the banner placed at. I just wanted to cut it out from a banner shape. If I did it again, I'd make sure I had it lined up properly to put it at the bottom of the card. Kind of an afterthought. So I'm just stamping the sentiment down with my acrylic block. This Lawn Fawn ink is really good. Nice and crisp where you can actually do that and not have to worry about having your lines not come out very good. So I'm going to go ahead and run that through my big shot. I'm going to remove the block that's holding the pig down in there. It's nice and dry. And you can see it slides nice and free along the little channel there. So I'm going to go ahead and add my other layers, and I'm adding a second layer of that graphic grid paper. I'm just trimming off any edges there that might hang over from the paper. I'm trying to line it up so that the lines are exactly the same on each layer of the graphic grid paper. You could offset it if you wanted to. You could also use some distress ink to add some color to each layer to make it stand out and give it some depth. But I'm just using each layer directly. And then when you want to put your foam adhesive down, you want to make sure move your animal along the slider too to make sure you don't have any foam tape that's blocking where it can slide. And in other places, you could add some foam tape if you had a stopping point where you wanted the animal to stop as well. Or your image or whatever you're using, you can put the foam tape there so it can't go past that point. And since I'm putting a frame over this piece, I don't need to worry about if it's hanging over the edge or not because I made it big enough that there's plenty of room. So I'm going to go ahead and add that third piece there down at the lower bottom. Go ahead and remove all the sticky back on my adhesive. I do apologize if my head keeps getting in the way. So once you have all those pieces down, just go ahead and insert your third layer there. So I'm going to go ahead and trim off the extra grid paper there that's laying down on the bottom side. Then I'm going to go ahead and adhere all my elements. I'm going to just use some double-sided tape and a couple pieces of foam tape to adhere the trees and the cow and the little sheep. I'm not popping too many of them up because I've already got the pig element in each layer is pretty high. So this is going to be a pretty thick card by the time we're all done. I think we're like 3 layers of foam tape already on it. And then with the sentiment, I couldn't decide where to put it. I kind of wanted it at the bottom, but I ended up putting it up at the top in the sky. So I'm just going to add a piece of foam tape to that and then trim off the edge. And then I created a the top folding craft card stock, and I'm just going to go ahead and put some adhesive on the back of this panel. And then I'm just going to add that to the card front. And I just tried to line it up as even as I could, just so make sure the frame goes around it. And then with the frame, I just cut the foam tape into 4 strips. And then I actually doubled up around the top and the sides of the frame. And then I adhered the bottom part directly to the grassy hills because it was the same height as the rest around it. So I hope that makes sense. And that's my card for today. So I hope you guys enjoy this, and I will see you next time. Don't forget to enter our Copic birthday celebration. Have a great day.